This just in.
Okay, I'm recording.
Scott
as well.
has been found.
Oh, did you guys have a? Did you have an alert for people to come find me?
Half of Montana is looking for you right now. Too bad.
So 80 people are looking.
Yeah, too bad. Too bad those people are all looking in Fallout. Excuse me, Far Cry 5.
I even had Far Cry 5 booted up looking for you, Scott.
I appreciate it.
It's May 6th, 2018. You're listening to Fancy Ramen. I'm Neil.
I'm Cookie.
And I have returned. I am Scott.
The
real
prodigal
Scott.
son.
That's
Not
right.
the robot Scott.
Robot Scott took place of me after he knocked me out and abandoned me in the woods, but I found my way home.
Have you guys seen
Yay.
the Bollywood movie named Robot?
No.
Same.
How much Bollywood do you watch, Neil? I wish I could say I know almost any Bollywood, but I really don't.
Well, what got me on this kick was the video the animated GIF circulating on Reddit of a gentleman peeling a banana in the most intense way possible, only to be attacked by, some mob guys or gang guys, and he proceeds to slice into people using the banana. Slit throats, blood everywhere in the most fantastic way possible through CGI. AKA basically someone used a paint tool and just painted the red on people's necks. Pretty magical. But after that, I started to look into more of what Bollywood had to offer, and boy, do they have a lot to offer.
I'm trying to think if I have any relevant knowledge at all
Of Bollywood?
of Bollywood. There is
Slumdog Millionaire.
I mean, yeah, that's probably the only movie I know that has a predominantly Indian cast. I don't think it actually counts as Bollywood, though, does it?
You guys tell me. I'm not really sure.
You're the one who's been doing
you're
all the Bollywood.
expert.
All I know is that every preview and promo I saw involving Bollywood recently did not have any sort of realistic real life trauma. Instead, it was crazy CGI giant snakes consuming tanks full of people, only to be interrupted with footage of a fucking musical dance number and a guy with a toupee that's apparently a robot.
I know that dance numbers are a big part of Bollywood, and so I don't know. Yes, okay. I do know one dance number from a Bollywood film called Rum Bum Bum. It's by Michael Madana Kamarajan, and it's amazing, and it's worth looking up. It's Rum Bum Bum. I'll give you all a moment to check it out. And then, Neil, you can pause for the audience to watch 4 minutes, 40 seconds of just pure ecstasy. I know you don't actually have to watch it, but it
I'm
is
also going to pass.
I don't know why I like it so much, but I just think it's so fun.
I'll save this for later. There's
Yeah.
only so much Bollywood one man can take in a given week. Speaking of weeks, though, what have you guys been up to?
Well, I can honestly say today's been kind of a day, and I'm going to apologize, Neil. I was clipping a little bit in my earlier laughing, so I turned my mic down, and now my levels are all kind of weird. But anyway,
I'm sure it's fine.
That's for your editing for later. But this weekend has been a weekend. First, Scott hit me up and was like, "Oh my God, Kanye!" And then
That
I
was
like,
actually Neil. I think Neil was. I
wait.
want to pull up the Slack, but Neil was virtue signaling that he's like, "Well, it's a good thing I never liked Kanye anyway." And Cookie had yet to hear the news about Kanye being wild and out.
Yeah, man, Kanye. It's surprising that Neil was the woke one out of us.
I just want to point out, it's not like I was trying to one-up you guys with it. It's just that I was happy I did not have to deal with the moral dilemma of liking Kanye's music along with him being a super shitty person, basically.
Wait,
Yeah,
so,
no,
so you have issues separating the artist from the art?
I mean, we've talked about it before, and I think we all agree that it's okay to like someone's artwork or creations, but not like the person. But
Yeah.
Pretty much.
it's just, it always boils down to a matter of like, it's always like an individual case by case scenario, right? Like there are people that don't go to Alamo Draft House because the owners of the Alamo Draft House basically have, swept like sexual harassment and assault under the rug before. But
Well, damn it, Neil, why do you tell me these things?
well, the way I see it is, did all of the people they're employing at the Omaha branch also knowingly ignore cases of sexual assault and harassment? It's like a boycott can hurt more people than the intended targets, right?
It'll mainly hurt everyone that's not the intended target.
Yeah, usually.
But now my Alamo Draft House pass thing, rewards card thing's never going to get used. Not that I've been using it anyway, because unfortunately they're kind of expensive.
Do you think Draft House is expensive?
Well, I don't live in Montana, so yes.
Dude. I'm just talking about like in comparison, I don't know if they've changed prices since I moved, but it's only been approximately a year. So I remember them having equivalent pricing to most of the other theaters around town.
Oh, I also have to preface this with I only go to movies on Saturday and or Sunday morning, so it's $5 tickets.
Oh, okay. So you're doing the matinee, and yeah, that could be different. That's a fair point. If you do Tuesdays, which I don't know how viable it is for you, they also do like the $5 Tuesdays or whatever, and those are pretty legit.
Mm-hmm. But those are
Anyway.
usually full of young people, and it's annoying.
Not to derail I don't want to derail the Kanye talk any further, but
Well,
I
yeah.
don't know. I'm grappling and coming to terms with one of my favorite artists and musicians, like always obviously being arrogant and annoying and sometimes an asshole and plenty of other, negative adjectives, but also being like a truly phenomenal and masterful like artist and performer.
I don't know. His latest stuff hasn't really been touching me.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. It kind of follows up with my thoughts too, that like the Kanye West that wrote Late Registration and like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is very different and separated kind of from the Kanye West that we see and hear now.
From the
and that's
Life of
tough.
Pablo.
Yeah, and I loved The Life of Pablo. I know it's like an erratic, almost schizophrenic album, and it's just kind of weird and choppy, but it's got a special place in my heart for most stuff. Like I like the experimental nature of it, and I used to hate Yeezy, and I appreciate it a lot more now with a lot more listening and kind of, I guess, deep dives on it. But long story short, for those who aren't in the loop, Kanye's I don't even know how relevant it is for the podcast, but anyway, it's important to the two of us, and Neil doesn't give a shit. So it has 3 reasons to be on the podcast right now. Kanye is ultimately going like hard right conservative in a lot of his speech, and with the black community being, and I don't know if I should feel comfortable talking about this when you're probably a better voice for it, Cookie, but he's like really disappointing a lot of people with the messages that he used to provide and kind of the train of thought that we thought was intrinsic to Kanye by taking a really intense swing into like political and social opinions that seem contradictory to what he once had and what probably a large number of his fan base has. And what's also really disturbing, I think, for a lot of people is the fact that he's just becoming another figurehead that like sometimes hateful and damaging ideology can be attached to. Like, since Kanye is really appreciated by, a more progressive and like diverse community, the fact that he is really kind of leaning in on some people and some realms of thought that are harmful to a large number of people in those demographics. It's startling and upsetting. And so I guess that's where like a lot of people are at emotionally right now. And it's about all I can say about the topic currently.
And if you want to know more, there's a great SNL skit with Childish Gambino.
Yeah. And if you want to know more about Kanye's position on it, you can listen to him get bodied in Ye versus the People.
Ooh, that'd be fun. But so speaking of Childish Gambino being on SNL,
His
also,
new music video.
his new music video, the fact that he retired and then came back this weekend with just newness. Yeah. Life is doing things now to me. This weekend has been a lot. So Childish Gambino's new music video, My America? This America.
This is America.
This is America. My first thought while watching the first controversial thing that happened on that video was, oh, this must be in reference to what the hell Kanye just did this week. So I stopped watching it, and then I let me and Lizzie watch it together. And then it was like, oh, no, this is definitely about gun control and gun violence in the world right now. I like it.
Yeah.
Did you happen upon it?
Yeah, the warehouse and just kind of his like, it's got really good imagery. And also there's something really both like, I don't know, there's something really entertaining too about Childish Gambino being like shirtless with a nice pair of pants on in the whole thing. Like he has this pseudo like, I don't know, like street and preppy swag with like the nice slacks and loafers, and then shirtless with the chain and the more wild urn style like beard and hair going on. Like he's doing a lot of juxtaposing in the video between both the imagery of like all the background scenes that's going on and his own like outfit and kind of actions in the music video.
Yep, and I was really excited that this was in a warehouse because it reminded me of the first video I saw by him, Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah.
And then as the video ends, he's running away from a bunch of people, and that just makes me think of, oh yeah, and this is kind of where Bonfire can pick up.
See, unfortunately, I don't actually have much background on the
on his music videos. It's
on
okay.
his videos. Yeah, I just really was lucky enough to kind of stumble upon this one earlier today, actually.
I think everyone stumbled upon it earlier today.
Yeah. But
anyway,
yeah, we can say it's a weird week for hip hop culture,
especially considering this is the Berkshire Hathaway weekend.
Yeah. Ooh, look at you and your whatchamacallit. So, yes, this was the Berkshire Hathaway weekend. So, Cookie, being a stockbroker and everything, decided that, I should probably go for this. Go to these types of things, right? So, yeah, I went to the Berkshire Hathaway meeting with Lizzie yesterday. We had tickets just for Saturday, and it's all right. It was kind of interesting, kind of watching all the rich people walk around, hearing all the people talk about how to make money really fast, and jerky rich people also being around.
I mean,
and then we went to.
You say that,
redundant almost.
But at the same time, you also have people like my stepdad there in jean shorts and a trucker hat.
Pretty much, yeah. It's very jarring to see, like, because me and Lizzie were both like, okay, so what should we wear? And I was like, what's going to be just perfect? Like business casual. Because I've heard there are some people that are going to be very, why are you here? And there are also going to be some people in full fucking 6-piece suits. Let's just be somewhere in the middle.
A 6-piece suit? Or do you just have double coat, double vest, double pants?
Nah, you're thinking
piece
of...
it out. 6-piece suit, you'd have the coat,
Pants.
the
Coat,
pants,
vest, and pants.
the
vest,
vest. I need a monocle.
cummerbund. You also have the cummerbund with the vest.
Underneath the vest. Okay, that's 4.
I need a monocle.
5.
Give me a top hat.
Okay. Yeah, or you could do gloves and cane to fill in the cummerbund monocle. But then you're almost a magician. And so you're like ranking visually in society to, like, goes down again.
Ooh, is he very rich or is he a magician?
Anything else exciting about the Berkshire meeting?
We ended up going to Nebraska Furniture Mart and seeing all the fancy things that was at the Berkshire meeting. So there's this new fancy lawnmower that cuts your grass for you. It's like a Roomba, but for outside. It's $3,500. So no, we're not getting that. But we ended up getting some new furniture. But yeah, Berkshire meeting. Lots of white people. Lots of people talking about making money, having money, being rich, and you know how it is.
Oh, I do.
But yeah, besides that, Berkshire meeting is a thing that I'm not really excited that I went once, and I think I'll never go again.
Gotcha. Do you have anything, Neil, that you want to get into?
Not really.
Okay, perfect. Then I think we should move on and from talking about rich white people to rich white half cat people and my completion of Ni no Kuni 2.
Wait, you completed it?
What'd you say? I beat it. I did beat it.
I'm proud
Before
of
you begin, I'm curious, are you going to be going into spoilers?
I want to keep, if there's any spoilers at all, like super light and ambiguous because I know you want to play it. I mostly just want to talk about the game's experience as a whole and kind of some interesting things I noticed about the end game that give you no indication as to what the end game actually is, story-wise. How you feeling about that, Neil?
Take it from here, Scott.
Okay, so to keep it an available game for you to play, in which I've spoiled very little about the game, not counting the previous times I've talked about it on the podcast. Ni no Kuni 2 was a really wonderful game that mixed both like live action RPG elements with also sort of a base building, micromanagement, and side quest heavy video game. It had, beautiful art and orchestration, as I had already talked about, and a relatively enjoyable storyline for the whole duration of the game. And it took me about 40 hours to beat, and that was playing the game in a way that was a little like I accepted a lot of risk in how I played the game near the later end of it because I ultimately didn't want to grind or do too many more side quests because I need to play some other games for the podcast before I only speak about Ni no Kuni for like 2 months straight. So, you guys have played games like Borderlands, or there are plenty of other games in which when you face an enemy that the game realizes is sort of numerically out of your reach or a little challenging, they get like highlighted with yellow or orange, right? And then enemies that are meant to just straight up like destroy you in a couple hits are like red, and the closer you get to like black red, the more lethal they become or impossible of a challenge.
I guess
Yeah?
so.
Yes.
I mean, are you familiar with it, Neil? I thought it might be
I
a
am.
JRPG thing. Okay. So Ni no Kuni makes good use of this, and I have found that you probably have to complete a majority of the side quests if you're not going to be encountering this late game, or you have a lot of grinding to do, because the last maybe 10 hours of the game, I more or less was fighting against orange and red enemies the entire time. And for the boss fights, I was probably under-leveled by about 15 to 20 levels for the last couple fights. And therefore, it made them very challenging and gave me a little bit more of the insurmountable pressure of some like Dark Souls fights, especially since this is a game in which I heavily rely upon reading enemy tells and doing a lot of like dodge rolling, because that's the best way. I think it's the best way to play with higher difficulty. And there are even some things that you can do with your tactic tweaker, which you get super early in the game, in which you can increase things like your heavy attack damage, or in my case, I invested heavily into increasing the invincibility frames in my dodge rolls. Anyway, what I wanted to say about the end game is not only is it a good continuation of kind of small twists on the storyline and how things go, it also is really, really generous in the opportunities it gives you to continue playing the side quests and other kind of like base building and party growth in the game before you take these final challenges. It alerts you before you hit most areas in which you won't have kind of free-form control about where you're going in the game. And it also kind of gives you heads up whenever you're going to something that will ultimately change the landscape of the game at like multiple opportunities. And it does so by giving you helpful little pop-ups before you engage with certain characters to progress the storyline forward.
Does it basically say, save now, please, save now, or you can't come back?
It's sort of like, for some of them, it's like you won't have an opportunity to play freely for a while. Is this okay? And then, you have the yes, no option. But then later it's like, this is, like this will be the ultimate conclusion, or like this is the end of the game and things will be kind of irreversible at this point. Though it does have a like new game plus or continued new game option after you beat it, which is nice for anyone who's playing it to know that you can beat the end of the game and then it's not the end of your play with that file. So they're very clear about kind of what the consequences of moving the story forward at the later stages actually does for the game. And I just really appreciated that, even though I knew I was going to rush through it, really no matter what the result was, what the consequences were of moving forward for my gameplay overall, I thought it was very convenient, because there are other games I've played in which I've moved too far forward and ended up missing out on opportunities that I meant to take advantage of before really continuing. And Neil, if you buy this game, you're gonna like it a lot. I think you'll really enjoy it. I had a great time with it.
I think Neil owns this game.
I don't yet. I was
He
planning
doesn't
on
yet?
buying it,
Okay.
but I saw it was still at full price, so I might just wait until
Yeah, just pick it
until it
up
gets
on a
discounted.
sale. It's an excellent game, and I don't think it's going to age very rapidly at all. Like, this will still be a really enjoyable or awesome game to pick up in a year or two if you catch a really good deal on it. So it's worth sleeping on. There's so much content and whatnot that you'll be able to kind of get into it and play it probably at any time. It's the same way I felt about and still feel about Metal Gear Solid 5. Like, that game's pretty old now. We're talking 3-4 years almost, and when I bought it and picked it up, it was just as good as buying it like day of release, in my opinion.
Nice. And
So what-
I guess I'll be...
Yeah, go ahead. What's this TrackMania all about?
So I have been playing TrackMania. It's kind of like a arcade racer where most of the races they're short sprints, so about 30-second races, and it's got this wonderful leaderboard. Right now I am ranked, oh god, I think it's like 392nd in all of Nebraska. So to break it down by the state you live in, the per track and per like overall ranking, state, nation, and world. My world ranking is like ridiculously high.
That's really
But-
cool that they let you condense it all the way down to state.
Mm-hmm. So it's like TrackMania, I found out about it by watching this YouTube video where this guy was talking about push forward maps, or like maps that they have this map editor. So people have made maps to where all you literally do is drive straight, and the map will do the driving for you. So to make you like do barrel rolls and turn you in crazy directions and do all these fun things. And I was like, oh, that seems like an interesting game. That was a PlayStation Plus game that was free last month. I'm going to go ahead and give this a try. It's a nice change of pace from like the normal game where you've got to sit down and dedicate like an hour to it or dedicate 30 minutes to it. Quite literally, it's be like, I want to hit a racetrack or race or two. Circle in the middle of a race will instantly restart it. No load screen that you have to wait for. Just going straight down to timers. And there is a mode on it that I really want to try. It's basically 2 players, 1 car. But I don't know how it's implemented. I haven't had a chance to have Lizzie jump on it with me. But it looks interesting. But yeah, TrackMania. It is a quick arcade racing game. I played it both in VR because it's got PlayStation VR support with its own unique levels. And I will honestly say, some of these levels genuinely put a smile on my face while doing them in VR. It's like, because I was doing like this barrel roll and some crazy ass shit and the drifts and wall rides. It's wonderful. If you have an opportunity, check out like push forward maps on YouTube for TrackMania.
I'll have to do that.
So I'm curious, is it since this is on the PlayStation VR, going back to the PlayStation VR in general, how does that feel after using the Rift the Vive on a more consistent basis?
So I definitely know what people are talking about now when they say screen door effect. Because like if the PlayStation VR is the only thing you've ever seen, you don't really know what they're talking about with screen door effect. Then once you go to the Vive, you're like, okay, this looks much better. Then after playing the Vive for a while, if you go back to PlayStation VR, then you're like, this is what they're talking about. That slight pixel haze that's going on around me.
See,
so
that's interesting because I've heard people say the opposite, that the Vive and Oculus have more of a screen door effect.
Ooh, maybe I still don't know what a screen door effect is.
So, I mean, but there is a noticeable difference in quality. The Vive looking clearer than the PSVR, right?
That is correct. 900 times out of 10. But yeah, so TrackMania on the PlayStation VR, it played smoothly. I ended up doing one level like 8 or 9 times because I was trying to like master it, basically. They give you the golds. They give you like bronze, silver, gold medals and a master level. So on one of the PlayStation VR levels, I am ranked like 10th in the nation and number 1 in Nebraska. But after doing that level about 8 or 9 times, I was starting to feel nauseous. So the motion sickness is still there a little bit, but it's not nearly as noticeable on the PlayStation VR as I used to think it was. So I'm guessing they've gotten the things down to where they've optimized it a lot better.
Have you ever used a fan in the room with you when you're playing VR?
I have not. I think it was you that mentioned that, though, right?
Yeah, maybe. I've heard it like on a somewhat consistent basis that putting a fan on yourself usually helps with that nausea to some extent. The price of why I ask is because the price of the PSVR has dropped considerably, where the first generation units are now less than $200. The only problem is that I don't think there are that many games I'm personally interested in on a PlayStation. So
that'll definitely keep you from getting it. And I'm actually become a much bigger proponent of why would you get something if you're not going to play the games on it?
Right, exactly. But there are ways to tie it to your computer and use Rift and or Oculus and Vive games on it. But it gets a little complicated, I guess.
too much work.
Exactly. Have you been playing anything else, Cookie?
Yeah, the usual stuff. Still doing. I've beaten the first area of Far Cry 5, and still just hitting with the normal Call of Duty.
Did you say the
And-
first area in Far Cry 5?
Yes.
So my understanding of Far Cry 5 is that you can tackle, I think there are like 3 bosses before the final boss, and you can tackle them in any order. Is it a like prologue area before that?
So there's the tutorial area, then it opens up the entire world for the 3 bosses.
Right.
One of the bosses actively has a hostage who was on your team before everything went to shit.
Gotcha.
So it kind of emphasizes go after this person first.
Or forsake that hostage.
Pretty much. So
And you must have liked them enough to bother.
Yeah. Oops.
I saved your life because, why not, right?
Pretty much. So it's okay, I will do this area, and now I think. So I end up doing usually if you play a Ubisoft game where they open up a map, there's take down the big boss, there's the enforcer section, so that's going to be where your main army people are, the tough guys. There's the section that is the media guy who controls how the media sees that person that you're doing, and then there's the whole trippy drug aspect one. First dude you take out's the media guy. He's the face. So I think since I've heard that the druggy place is the most interesting one, then I'm gonna go up to the north area and take out the enforcers, and then go full on Blake Street drugs.
Gonna do some of
But
that Northwestern peyote.
Pretty much. That is the plan. But yeah, that's it's kind of where I'm at video game wise. So talk about the same usual things.
Well, I know Neil's been
have you stopped playing Monster Hunter World?
Actually, we jumped on Monster Hunter World a couple of days ago. I now have the Dante outfit. The Devil May Cry crossover event is going on right now.
I heard his boots are pretty fantastic.
They're made for walking.
I don't remember what it was, but the boots have some sort of attribute that now make them the meta item, so to speak.
Well, now I've got to go back and look at the actual bonuses it gives me.
I
Since
don't
you have
think
to
it's
wear the
important
entire
enough.
set at once, it's well, I'm either wearing the Dante skin or I'm not wearing the Dante skin.
I don't think you need to. It's okay.
Oh, I'm not going to do it now.
So I was kind of wondering how I would, or which games I would bring up in what order, since I've been able to get a little more time playing games in this week.
Yeah, you look like
at
you've had an awesome week.
Yeah, at a sacrifice of not watching as much anime and so on, or reading manga for that matter. But I want to start with the odd and weird and maybe even ugly and go to, I guess, the better experiences. The first game I was playing this week in that order would be the Silver Case, which is a Grasshopper manufacturer developed game, i.e. Suda51. And it's a game like the Silver Case that kind of reminds me that Suda is, for lack of a better phrase, fucking weird. And when people talk about Suda going back to his roots, I'm pretty sure they're thinking the Silver Case and Killer 7. Because when you look at No More Heroes, there is a tangible storyline and a narrative that, even though it's a little weird, same with Killer is Dead, things ultimately make enough sense and it's a cohesive story. But when I play the Silver Case, I'm reminded way more of Killer 7 in terms of these odd and vague interpretations and themes, and a storyline that at times makes you wonder, am I missing something, or is something weird? And And in the case for the silver case, the story is certainly intriguing, but I'm honestly not holding my breath because I believe I've already figured out what the twist is going to be, and I'm pretty sure the twist is one of those super cliche cases of mistaken identity is what we'll say, and leave it from there. Don't want to get into spoilers in case you guys are ever curious enough to play this game.
I would probably pass, but for Cookie's sake, we can leave it in the dark.
And I
I'll
would say
play.
with good reason, because this game controls very strangely too. They use something that they call the film window, which is the system that is more or less justifying the use of only like 1/3 of your screen for something that actually has any purpose.
Yeah,
So
I watched a video of this, and it looks like your movement is just absolute garbage.
yeah, and the PC version, this remaster, since I'm not playing the original, mind you, I'm playing this on Steam. I do have the benefit of having a lot of shortcut keys, but it's just kind of strange considering, like, okay, I need to hit the M key to then go into movement mode, and now I can use W to go forward, A and D to turn left and right respectively, and S to turn around. So there's no strafing or anything, which, like, that's something that you can do in, even some of the oldest dungeon crawlers. Maybe
in
not
Doom.
the oldest. Yeah, exactly. And it's not free movement either. It's basically like you have it's similar to like certain VR games where you have checkpoints or nodes on the map that you can walk to or teleport to, if you will. In this case, you see the walking motion between the 2 points. But so if there's a hallway, I might have 3 nodes, one at the start of the hallway, one in the middle of the hallway, and one at the end of the hallway. And there's usually always a node to place you in a position if there's something interesting, but otherwise, if there's nothing in the middle of that hallway, it might just be a node at the start and end of the hallway. So it kind of does take out some of the exploration from or potential exploration from this game, because you're never really left wondering where something's going to be. Although they do find some good moments to actually hide some little surprises from you. Like at one point you're inside of a mall and you can look up and down, which use the Q and E keys. And you're trying to find like your next objective or like the next thing that has to happen in order for the game to progress. And you suddenly realize as you're walking around that there's a shadow on the ground, like a body shadow on the ground. So you look down and it's like, oh, that's clearly a figure. You look up, it's a glass roof, and a body falls on top of you from there. And after that, I was like, okay, that was pretty good. But overall, it's still this whole movement system is actually a big detriment because characters do not appear in this 3D space, in this film window. Instead, you only see portraits on the screen. And that's supposed to serve as your symbol that they are actually in the spot you're looking at. So if I'm looking in this hallway at one side of the room or wall, hallway, whatever, like the left wall of this hallway, I'll have these portraits here. That basically symbolizes that, like, while you don't actually see them in this 3D space, that these characters are actually standing there. And it was kind of, it's never really explained. So the first portion of the game where you're basically trying to find this armed murderer, you have these portraits, and I'm assuming that with these portraits here, that's just because we're on radio comm. And so it's like, oh, I can talk to these guys, but it really didn't occur to me until like an hour later, like, oh, that meant those 3 guys or 2 guys were with me at that same point. And as soon as I started moving and their portraits disappeared, it's not because I lost communication with them. It's that they were no longer physically with me. And for that reason, too, it's almost like if I treated this game more as like a text-based game as opposed to, and treated the UI more as just like a way to better control the map, I guess, I would maybe enjoy it a little more. But like it's that weird blur between being a full text-based game and a graphical game that I think really do some harm to the silver case as a whole. At the same time, I kind of want to suggest that if you're into super weird shit, you should maybe check it out, because there's just wait for it to go on sale, because there is some weird stuff going on that makes me feel like the main character is mentally disturbed in a way that, like, I guess would justify some of these weird mechanical issues I have with the game.
Is this a game that Hideo Kojima would enjoy?
Probably. In fact,
Okay. That's a really good answer for me then.
Going away from some of the weirdness and going into maybe a little bit of is the word jank offensive?
Not to me.
Yeah, I'm
Or
wondering
to
if
me.
that's actually like some sort of racial slur that I'm not familiar with. But going into the jank, we'll say, Tiffany and I got to play some time, a little bit into Stardew Valley's multiplayer beta, which is available to everyone. You just have to sign up for it off of their website. They'll give you a code that you can then activate on Steam. What makes the beta weird, or this multiplayer version weird, is that it kind of brings to light a lot of the system and core fundamentals of Stardew Valley, and how they don't always work well when you imagine it as a 2-player, 3, 4-player game. And it seems like you can actually have quite a few people in one game or instance occurrence, because you can actually start out with multiple cabins, as they call them, available for your friends, or you can all live in one house. There's a bunch of different options. It's weird because if you are going into like it's just certain things aren't really taken into consideration when you implement multiplayer. Like if you're in cutscenes, I believe time still passes normally. So if you're really actually taking your time to read through different story events or anything, real time is still passing in the background. So you could go into an event which would otherwise pause time in single player and end the event with hours passed afterwards. In addition to that, there's also the game also seems to have a shared wallet system so far, and I'm not sure if there's any way to change that. But if Tiffany and I were playing, whatever she farms and harvests and sells and whatnot also goes to my available funds. So we share the money through and through. And I think
So how does this speak to your relationship and having a shared bank account?
well, it really hadn't affected us from what we've played, but I wonder if that makes it an issue for people that don't necessarily want to work on one conglomerate farm and instead want to section out portions of the farm themselves. Because
Right. Then it's a little competition for who uses what's in the coin purse first.
exactly. And it's like I just want to farm vegetables, but Joe wants to just do ranch animals. And I could find that suddenly all of these chickens are now inhabiting the coop, and now I don't have any money to buy seeds, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm curious of whether or not that's something that they'll look into implementing down the road, because now that I look at it, multiplayer in Stardew Valley must have taken a lot of rewriting in order to actually get it to work properly. But it really does certainly feel like there are now multiple single player instances in one game cooperatively, and it's pretty fun. There are some issues, and we've had some game crashes as well, for that matter, where it just seems like when you talk to certain people, if they're in certain animations, or you talk to people in certain rooms, that some of the dialogue is bugged or whatever the case may be, and it will just destroy. It'll just crash your game. But again, it's a beta, so that's to be expected, I guess. Now, that aside, I started playing a game that I picked up a few months ago off of a Humble Bundle, and I am so happy I picked it up and so sad I did not start playing it when it came out a couple years ago, or maybe just a year ago, I don't recall. But the game's called Hacknet. And in this particular game, it's like a mixture of I guess you could just say like DOS prompts or DOS commands, and a very simplified approach to hacking. So you open up the game, and basically, just as if like in the story, it seems like you are just a person that has stumbled upon this computer, and when you open it up, it comes up with essentially a will if you will, a test. I'm trying to think. Like it's basically a message from someone saying that like, hey, if you're reading this, then I'm probably dead. I've got some things I want you to do for me, and that involves basically going in, learning how to hack, quote unquote, clearing out some log files from him that he's left behind, and then just getting into it, joining a hacker group and hacking shit, stealing information, if because that's what it is, even though it seems like you're one of the quote unquote good guys. Also counter hack in some cases. All the while you're also trying to figure out what has happened to the first person, or the person that you apparently get this computer from or whatever. And as I was playing through it today, I actually started it just around 1 or 2 o'clock today. I realized I had something really special when I hit an unexpected point where suddenly another character was starting to hack my system and crashed it. And so I'm presented with the blue screen of death. And since I'm playing in full screen mode, like obviously I was pretty sure it was the game, but then
It still gives you stress even when you think it's the game, right?
exactly. And
That's
then
one of the
it boots
things.
up into a DOS prompt. And that's when I really knew I had something special, because like it took me a couple minutes, but I suddenly realized, oh, I can actually, even though I'm in DOS now, I can just go in and figure out like what this guy did to my system that basically forced my system to crash and be unable to open back up into the regular OS. And just like that moment and trying to figure out what to do from there was, I think, the moment that made me feel like this game was something special. I'm excited to see what comes up next, and you should really get it. It's usually on sale for something like $5 or less in some cases. And yes, like I apologize, I do kind of spoil one of the first big things that happens, but it's still totally worth it. It's also really great looking into these different servers and different computers and looking up a lot of their IRC chat logs. There's a lot of like inside jokes and a lot of like nerd culture going on. Like one example, which is of no consequence, is there's a chat log where someone comes in named Spartacus, and then they change their name, and then one of the people in chat says, "Who's Spartacus? I saw that Spartacus logged in," and then everyone else in the chat room started saying, "I'm Spartacus. No, I'm Spartacus." But
So, just to like give you a heads up, because I don't know if you've actually seen the trailer for Hacknet or not, but in the game trailer, all the things that you talked about appear in it. So if you were to even look up the game, you really haven't spoiled anything that isn't already demonstrated in like the very beginning of that trailer. So
I never did look up the trailer. Now I kind of have to watch it.
yeah, now you should. This looks super cool. Like, this is very interesting to me as someone who's kind of like very interested and infatuated by computer science at times. It seems like a much more accessible way for me to get into this, as opposed to like reading a bunch of information that is, on like Stack Overflow or looking at stuff on GitHub. It seems like hands-on and fun, but at the same time, it's also in some ways, obviously inconsequential, delving into the actual art of working with like what real hacking would be like. Because I see in quite a few articles, it is like quote unquote real hacking in there. That's super cool.
I'm curious as to how real it is.
Yeah, I mean, I have no background on it, so I wouldn't know. Do you know how far you are into it at this point?
I don't. So I just watched the trailer where you were talking to, and
Right.
the point where you go blue screen. I'm quite a few jobs or past that, and actually, there's a great KFC reference, or CFC. I remember doing that too, and what you're doing is actually looking up the secret recipe. You have to hack into their databases to figure out exactly what the recipe is, and it's literally just a job that you're using to get into another like group of hackers, I guess you could say, or there's a better term for that, but yeah, I even noticed on that KFC bit, the person apparently, or the supposed player in the trailer, even actually changed the font that was displaying on their website, which now that I think about it, you definitely could do, but I just didn't even think of that would be a thing you could do in this. It's impressive to to the detail what you are capable of in Hacknet. And
Well, I thought I saw something that the game actually implements real commands from what system? From Unix, and so
yeah, that would make
it
sense.
could be that if you're familiar with that particular set of commands, like you could have a lot more freedom and creativity within the game that like an amateur or someone who doesn't know that already would not have, which is kind of cool. Like I guess you could you consider that a difficulty curve in a sense, or like what is it, a skill curve?
Oh, I certainly think so. You'll get to certain terminals that will, not terminals rather, but servers and computers that have a built-in tracer, and it, like, by triggering the tracer, you have only X seconds before you get traced, so you have to finish your job in that long. But if you're fast enough and efficient enough with your workflow, that still gives you more than enough time to go in and dig through chat logs and look for the stupid jokes and stuff from there. I think the game is only as difficult as you make it out to be, with a certain extent. Like you still have the initial learning curve that you have to get past that just allows you to be decent at the game, like understanding things like, oh, if I'm going to run an FTP exploit, I should probably look up what the ports are and see what the port FTP is before I try and open that port. It's stuff like that where, like, I feel as if anyone that hasn't at least worked with DOS before would just be completely lost on. But the tutorial is actually super helpful, and there is a pretty decent help message that allows you to kind of go through most of your basic commands. So I don't think it'd be like unreachable to anyone that just, unreachable for like a person that was born, say, 10 years ago to play it once they were old enough to kind of understand a bit of like how, I guess, commands work. Now I'm second guessing myself at like how accessible this game is, because I'm assuming I probably have more experience and exposure to things, to like command prompts, than the typical person, but just by the nature of me talking about it, I already know I'm like no expert in this field, or even close to one.
Way to call yourself better than us normies.
Like, Cookie, you've done some scripting before, right?
Oh yeah, I'll do basic HTML, a little bit of Java, some C++, and
yeah. So
yes, I have used DOS.
This would be super easy for you to pick up, I think.
Mm.
Super easy. I keep using the word super. Terraria, just to really cap off, like, this will probably be the last time I talk about Terraria, but I kind of realized exactly what was so charming about this game to me. It's not like the core fundamentals of the game. It's not about the different types of materials and stuff. It's not the survival resource gathering aspect of it.
It's the grunts when you get damaged.
Oh God.
Oh man, I love them. I think they're so funny.
It's the really extra or the frivolous details that they've added to it. The weird dialogue you pick up from different characters, and how the different people, I'm assuming it's based upon what their occupation, seem to have slightly different personalities, and it's the strangeness behind finding a voodoo doll of your, I'll call them townies, at random places, and actually finding out that if the voodoo doll happens to be destroyed, that person also happens to die. It's the ability to actually meet and save people when you're in dungeons, and build them rooms in your base and actually assign them to those rooms. and you brought up base building in Nino Kuni too, and that like the base building is kind of a trigger word for me because it could be really not like I'm triggered, but it's a word that catches my attention because it could be something that really appeals to me.
Mm-hmm.
What's been great with Terraria, and I've actually maybe enjoyed it more than anything else, is trying to come up with a design for each of the characters. Like there's a tavern keeper, so trying to build a bar or pub-like setting and trying to figure out ways that make sense in a 2D cross-section plane rather, that would allow all of these different characters' rooms to be connected together to this tavern or to some other great room. In
And
some
not look
weird
like a giant block with smaller block rooms with chairs and a bed for each person.
I mean, and going beyond that too, like there are some characters that I'm just like, I don't know what you want. Like you're a kid that I met at the beach and you want me to do something and I don't remember what it is. So I'm just going to give you a chair.
That you at least like bump into characters, because I swear, like I meet maybe 2 or 3 characters and I played that game for like 100 hours and I don't know why it's so hard for me to bump into people. I'm too busy just digging straight down.
And I think that maybe is part of it. Like Minecraft doesn't really have a direction for you to go. Like there's some end game content, like going to the Ender Dragon and going to basically hell. I don't remember what it is, but using those portals.
Yeah.
But Terraria seems to do at least a slightly better job of pointing you into a direction to go and explore and kind of teasing you with enemies that are way too strong, like having an old man in a weird temple, and if you talk to him, you basically spawn a boss that destroys you. Sorry?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was just agreeing. You get the shit slapped out of you by a skeleton as soon as you realize who you're dealing with.
Exactly, and it's been a good experience. I definitely would say that if there are any naysayers out there that look at Terraria and say, man, these graphics are shit, I was you once. And you can actually zoom in, even though it's not very good.
Have you messed with the, I think it's the aspect ratio for that game or whatever? You can play it on multiple screen sizes, and it's like I think it's a really fun experience when you've got it full screen out to the whole monitor. Like, it's a huge snapshot of any area that you're in if you have good lighting.
So I'm playing an exclusively full screen, but I do tend to have the game zoom itself.
Okay.
Up a bit.
I've played it. Yeah, I've played it where it's panned out or like zoomed out quite a bit, so my character is actually quite small on the screen.
And that's actually what turned me off from it initially. Is just like, man, my character's so small, it's so fucking hard to click things. But if I zoom into like 120 or 125, like it makes me feel less shitty about being able to click specific blocks, or I'm basically able to.
It makes me paranoid dealing with enemies though, because then it feels really claustrophobic, especially when you hear like the of those worms digging through the dirt or something. Like I want a heads up warning of where they're coming from.
That is true. That is true. I don't know if they were around back then, but I just discovered that if you have a good yo-yo, you can basically kill anything.
Yo-yo's been around for a while. I think it's been around for quite a while with that game. So,
but that about does it for my weekend games, with a few other exceptions of some old games I've been playing. Let's talk a bit about some recent events in the gaming world. First up, have you guys watched any of the Red Dead Redemption 2 trailers?
I am on a media blackout for the Red Dead Redemption 2 trailers.
And I'm on a Red Dead Redemption 2 blackout because I didn't play the first one, and I haven't played Grand Theft Auto since GTA 4, so I'm probably also not going to get this game either.
Oh man, you should definitely play GTA 5.
Yeah. I hear great things about it, but I don't know. I ruin every GTA experience by ultimately buckling and putting in a cheat code and then never being able to like go back, and then I just go down the whole cheat code like hole of just exploiting every code possible. It's really hard for me.
And just to make
No,
sure,
that's
Cookie,
perfect.
you're talking about 5 as in the single player experience, right?
Yeah, actually, he can play GTA 5 online with me, and I'll join you online.
Can you play the single player mode online?
No,
Oh man, that would be fucking fun. If one of us could be Franklin, one could be Michael, one could be homicidal maniac.
Trevor.
Trevor, right.
Yep. Nope. You just kind of go online with your character that you don't really create, but you kind of create by creating your mom and your dad.
That's interesting.
Which, yeah.
So they take the features of your mom and your dad and they kind of like scramble them.
Pretty much.
That's actually a really interesting way to do it.
It's weird.
And then you're just in a world full of CEOs and mob bosses and biker gangs and
Fast cars.
whatever happens to be going on at the moment.
All
But
of which
only just player versus player killing. Just
Yeah.
player killing.
all of which, like every player character in that game happened to also be mute like yourself.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. Just
I mean, that's Dark Souls for you. Except for very good.
Hello.
And hello.
Well, guys, Remedy Entertainment, the developers of Quantum Break and Alan Wake, will reveal their next project, codenamed P7, at E3. Do you guys care about either of those games?
ooh, Persona 7?
Yes, P7. It's going to be multiplayer, cooperative.
Nice.
I haven't played Quantum Break, and I played Alan Wake late enough after it had been released that it felt a little clunky and graphically behind. And so I kind of dropped it pretty early.
I
I'll
didn't
tell
play
you.
either of these because Xbox. Why?
I will tell you for the record, Alan Wake was always kind of clunky and kind of bad looking.
Okay, that makes me feel really good, actually.
All right. Then that aside, a company I think we can all care about, or at least Scott and me, Platinum Games could be
Yes.
making waves in the mobile market with their new game World of Demons, a samurai action RPG that combines traditional Japanese calligraphy and inspired styles that one could associate to games like Okami and the extensive folklore of Japanese mythology. Scott, how much would you pay for this game on your phone?
I don't really play phone games, but I'm trying to think of if I've actually bought any games for my phone.
I mean, you did play Fire Emblem Go or whatever, right?
Yeah, Fire Emblem Heroes. I played that for quite a while, actually. I got, and that is true. I had that, and actually with my old iPhone, I had a couple of games on there back in the day. But just looking at like the announcement trailer for this, it looks really cool, honestly. If it is one where I have to pay, say, $5 or less, I might actually be willing to give a mobile game a try. But I would really like it if they have like a free demo version that I could try out beforehand. But Platinum makes great combat games. It looks beautiful. I hope it's intuitive enough for gameplay. What about you, Neil? You have a new phone that actually works, right?
Yeah, I've got a new used phone.
Nice. Yeah. What about you? Are you considering getting a game on your phone?
I'm
I
still-
guess the reason that I'm always hesitant is like my battery is starting to have a harder time. So I don't like anything that'll drain my battery really heavily, and games definitely do that.
Is your phone, like, is it possible for you to swap out your battery in your phone without taking it to a shop?
No, definitely not. I've got what I believe is a Galaxy S7, which I really like the phone in general, but the battery life is just starting to take a bit of a dive recently. And I haven't been able to figure out why just yet.
Well, you can't play this game anyway, Scott.
Is it too intense for my phone specs?
No, I only saw the Apple logo.
Oh, it's only iOS. Okay, well,
No,
that's fine.
it's also Android.
Oh, yep, there it is. Baby? Yeah. It says filed under Android. Yeah, that launch trailer only showed the iOS symbol.
Just like how there are games that are PS4 exclusives, but really there's an Xbox One version of the game as well.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and there's Xbox exclusives that are also available on PS4 and
Mhm.
PC.
I would be
Xbox
more likely
exclusive.
to pick this game up if they actually charged an upfront fee or like cost.
I'm way more likely to pick up a mobile game for a price if I pay for the price outright and get the whole game versus any sort of microtransactions built into it.
I'm way more to pick up a mobile game if it's free.
And that too, I guess.
The only thing that concerns me is that this is being made along with DNA, the mobile developer that was made famous for its partnership with Nintendo a couple years ago. But they more recently published Final Fantasy Record Keeper and Fire Emblem Heroes, both of which, if I'm not mistaken, are free to play and gacha purchases.
Yeah, Fire Emblem Heroes, definitely a fun game, but also probably very difficult to be super successful at without gambling with the like in-game purchases.
In maybe more serious news, according to reporting from the fine people of Motherboard at Vice, the FTC, or Federal Trade Commission, has sent notices to 6 companies, including Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, basically stating that their warranty language and stickers printed and placed on their various hardware is illegal, as they believe it violates the 1975 Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, which states no manufacturer charging more than $5 for a product may put repair restrictions on a device it's offering a warranty on.
That's pretty nice news.
Oh yeah, they only have like a week to pretty much take it off of everything.
Apple was not
Nice.
included in those 6 companies.
I wonder why.
Money.
They paid too much.
Yeah, I'm sure. I bet Tim Cook and Donald Trump, had a little pinky swear on that one.
When they were out drinking martinis with the Koch brothers.
And Kanye.
Because now Kanye is just included in all of those now.
Yeah. Oh man, we've come full circle, baby. I didn't intend to, but here we are. Did you guys ever actually use any of the old Nintendo like repair shops? I know that we actually had one in Omaha for a while, out off of like Millard Avenue, I think.
I didn't know those existed.
Yeah, man. They were,
I
I
am-
mean, we're talking like back in my Game Boy Color days, I was aware that there was one because we'd drive by pretty frequently. I lived in a neighborhood near there, but I never utilized one. They had like Mario with the wrench in his hands. That was their little logo.
Which makes even more sense now with Mario Maker.
Yeah, and being a plumber, I mean, he's a master of all trades, right? Not even a jack of all trades.
Yep, except for plumbing, because he's not a plumber.
But he knows how to slip through them pipes.
What?
Wait, I thought there was like a recent
Gross.
interview. Someone was saying that he's a plumber again or some bullshit.
Oh, I don't know. I tend to not keep up on game news.
Mario is a renaissance man. That's what he is.
So did Mario just take a bunch of shrooms and then he this is his coma dream? Like he dreams about the brother he killed, which is like why Luigi keeps going in and out of existence depending on what game you're playing. and he has this fantasy of like a blonde princess. Like he has to deal with Bowser, who's like a symbol of his addiction.
And Wario is his shitty cousin.
Maybe Wario is himself, like in real life.
Oh no.
Nice.
That would be pretty sad.
The harsh reality of the drug addict that he's
This is
become.
an interesting twist.
Well, this conversation is getting a little too meta for me.
Yeah, we're kind of derailing. So
If you have your own theories about the Mario world, you can write them in at podcast@fancyramen.com.
Better yet, just keep thinking that Scott's the only black one on the podcast and give us a like, write a review on the Apple Podcast.
And to help me raise my street cred as apparently the only black guy on the podcast, please tell your friends all about me and my two ethnically bland co-hosts, Cookie and Neil. And I don't know. What is that all we got?
Have a good week, everybody.
Okay, bye.